In today's news bulletin, Australia's national curriculum recognises Christian heritage. Speculation surges. Are the last days upon us? And Jesus' childhood explored on the silver screen.
This is InFocus Christian News and Current Affairs.
Hello, welcome to InFocus. My name's Kent Kingston, and at the news desk is my lovely co-host, Sibel Coutet.
It's great to be here, Kent. Now, I understand today you'll be chatting with Lyle Shelton about Australia's new Prime Minister.
Yeah, I'm still getting used to that idea, I think.
Yeah, me too. And I think Sue Rad's going to be talking to us about Chia Seeds, or is it Chia Seeds?
Chia Seeds? I don't think I've ever heard anyone pronounce it Chia Seeds. Look, it's Chia so far as I know. And yeah, today's interview is with a man who was very nearly on that ill-fated Germanwings flight that slammed into the French Alps, killing everyone on board. So yeah, that's a fascinating story.
Sounds interesting. Time for the news?
Absolutely.
State education ministers have signed off on a new national school curriculum that includes a new emphasis on Australia's Christian heritage. The politicised nature of education has been a source of conflict in recent years, with a growing focus on Asia and Indigenous issues being criticised by Conservative governments. According to the Australian newspaper, both of those issues will now be less emphasised, and students will learn more about the nation's British and Christian influences.
I think that's a very appropriate move, that we recognise fully that Australia has a rich Christian heritage. For young people in society to grow up with a more balanced perspective is a good thing.
As Australians adjust to having Malcolm Turnbull as Prime Minister, the Anglican Church has taken the opportunity to call for a more compassionate and bipartisan approach on asylum seekers. A letter from Melbourne Bishop Philip Huggins to the Prime Minister and to opposition leader Bill Shorten notes that both major parties are essentially agreed on ending human trafficking and bringing in an extra 12,000 Syrian refugees. The letter goes on to suggest that a bipartisan amnesty for asylum seekers currently behind razor wire in offshore detention centres would help end the human suffering caused by policies pursued under Tony Abbott's watch. Malcolm Turnbull has expressed his commitment to the coalition's current raft of policies, but also said everything is subject to review. A series of natural disasters and widespread political uncertainty has had some Christians looking to the skies for answers and wondering if Judgment Day is on its way. The fourth blood moon in less than 18 months is due to appear on the 28th of September, the date of this year's Jewish Feast of Tabernacles. A series of natural disasters in Israel, a record-breaking sandstorm and heatwave, and then freak flooding and hailstorms has had doomsday watchers on their toes. Combine all that with violent conflicts in the Middle East and Pope Francis's visit to the USA, and you've got what a number of prophecy-minded Christians regard as clear signs of the last days.
Many of the things that are taking place at this time are definitely clear signs that Jesus is coming soon. Our world simply cannot continue as it is right now. However, not everything that we see taking place in the world is listed in the Bible as one of the signs of the times. You know, as Christians, we need to have our eyes open, we need to have our mind open, but we also need to have our Bibles open to find out, does this come from the Bible?
After years of political manoeuvring, Hindu-majority Nepal has approved a new constitution that declares the country a secular nation. In a curious accident of history, Nepal's Christians have found themselves glad that politicians aligned with the communist and atheist rebel movement managed to defeat an attempt to declare Nepal a Hindu state. According to Christian Newswire, the amendment would have led to a severe clampdown on minority religions, including Christians. Emotions ran high in the lead-up to the vote in Parliament, with angry Hindu nationalist protests and low-impact bombs exploding in 2 Christian churches. No deaths have been reported. In a grim reminder of the reach of Nigeria's violent extremists, at least 9 people have been killed in a late-night attack on a village in far northern Cameroon. Among the dead are 2 soldiers who were guarding the village and 7 Adventists killed in their homes by armed attackers. According to the Adventist Review, Islamist insurgency group Boko Haram has not claimed responsibility for the attack. However, locals say the violence follows the pattern of the 400 killings carried out by Boko Haram in Cameroon since last year. Adventist leaders in West Africa have called for prayer. According to the UK's Guardian newspaper, the Archbishop of Canterbury is hoping to keep the worldwide Anglican Communion together, paradoxically, by allowing it to move apart. At a meeting planned for January next year, Archbishop Justin Welby will propose a new structure whereby different parts of the Anglican Communion will have a formal relationship with his office, but not necessarily with one another. Issues of homosexuality and same-sex marriage have led to schisms for Anglicans within the UK, North America and Africa. With an approximate membership of 80 million, the Anglican Communion is the world's 3rd largest Christian community. Even though he's visited Australia 9 times previously, the machine gun preacher Sam Childers has had to postpone his Australian speaking tour. Pastor Ken Wooten from Toowoomba's Christian Outreach Centre in Queensland said Pastor Childers had fallen afoul of new Australian immigration laws that came into effect on the 1st of July. It seems that because of Pastor Childers' well-documented criminal past and his involvement with armed groups who rescue kidnapped children in Africa, his visa application has been delayed. Organisers are hopeful that the issue will be sorted so that the tour can go ahead at a later date. After a lot of hard work and planning, New Zealanders now have access to a brand new Christian television station that was launched earlier this month.
Slice some cucumber, some red onion just to give it a bit of freshness. So just make little falafels like this. They just smell amazing.
Hope Channel New Zealand is available free to air or via other platforms including the popular Sky TV network to more than 2/3 of the nation's TV sets. The Hope Channel team is working hard to ensure that Kiwi voices and faces are an integral part of the new station's identity. A number of locally produced TV series are already airing. Cinema goers at Easter next year may well have the option of seeing a film based on a topic the Bible doesn't say much about, the childhood of Jesus.
What do we tell our little boy?
How do we explain God to his own son?
Keep your power inside you until your Father in heaven shows you the time to use it.
According to cinemablend.com, The Young Messiah is based on the award-winning book by Anne Rice, Christ the Lord Out of Egypt. Reviews of both the book and film highlight their faithfulness to the biblical record, but if the past is any indication, moviegoers may well see it differently.
Lord Father in heaven, guide me on this path.
He's in the temple. Who are you? He's just a child.
And that's the news for this week. Kent?
Thanks, Sibel. Hey, stay with us. Politics in Focus is coming up straight after the break.
Travel back in time to ancient civilizations through this bi-monthly magazine, Archaeological Diggings. In this issue, we find out who were those lesser-known female pharaohs. Also, we follow an expert through London's antiquities shops on the hunt for contraband artefacts and turn-up relics, the product of ISIS looters. And we look at the origins of the Silk Road and visit Palmyra, its western terminus. Don't miss an issue. Subscribe online or ask for Archaeological Diggings at your local newsagent.
Welcome back, and joining us now from the never-ending soap opera that is Australian politics is the Australian Christian Lobby's Managing Director Lyle Shelton. More drama than Summer Bay, Lyle.
A week is a long time in politics, Kent, and just over a week ago Tony Abbott was Prime Minister, and now he's not, and there's a whole new ministry been sworn in this week. Big changes for the government and for Australia.
Yeah. Now, Lyle, we do seem to be getting mixed messages from Malcolm Turnbull. First of all, he says he's sticking with the coalition's established policies, but then he says everything's subject to review. But what do you make of all that?
Ken, I think where you have the different elements of the party, some are winners, some are losers in such a reshuffle, and when there's been such a dramatic change of leader, there's a lot of healing that needs to be done. And I think what you're seeing here with policy in these early stages is the new Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, wanting to bring healing to the party. So he's made some concessions on things like climate change, and also has retained the decision to hold a plebiscite on same-sex marriage until after the election. And that's something that he's given to the National Party, his coalition partner, and to those of the Conservative wing of the Liberal Party.
Okay, well, what about some other issues that, Christians are likely to be passionate about? I mean, asylum seeker policy, for example. In Melbourne, their Anglican bishop there, Philip Huggins, has called for a new bipartisan commitment. He wants an amnesty for asylum seekers in offshore detention. That doesn't strike me as a very likely outcome.
Look, I don't think it would be, Kent, as much as you and I would love to see that happen, and I think many people would. I think whilst ever you've got a situation where you've been successful in stopping people smuggling, where 1,000 people drowned that we know of in the last 3 years of the Labor government, and when you've got someone like Scott Morrison, who was the architect of the policy to stop people smuggling, now on the National Security Committee of Cabinet, and Treasurer, very senior, I don't think you're going to see any appetite for anything that might encourage people smuggling to start again, as much as we would love to see all of those people out of offshore detention.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see how it all unfolds. Thanks for your time this week, Lyle.
Pleasure, Kent. Thanks for having us.
And now it's over to James Toogood and Sue Rad.
Look, it's just absolutely amazing. It's conquered the Western world. From the deserts of the Americas, we have chia seed. It's from a mint-like plant, like mint, and it grows in the desert.
That's
and we
right,
have chia seeds.
Yes, it's from a flowering plant from the desert, and it's been used as food and medicine by ancient civilizations in the South American.
And this is Australian chia grown in Western Australia.
Yes.
It's just incredible.
Yes.
Now, everybody is putting it on their breakfast cereals around the entire country of Australia.
Yes.
I want to know why. Even I started.
Well, there's lots that's good about chia.
Oh, yes.
Of course, like most seeds and even nuts, it's full of minerals, such as iron and calcium and so on. But two of the standout things about chia, for me at least, are its massive fibre content. So just in 1 tablespoon, James, and we can see 1 tablespoon just there at the front.
Yes, okay,
just
yes.
in one
That's
of those
white
tablespoons.
seed and black seed.
Yes, we've got white and black.
Okay.
You actually get more fibre than you get from 1 slice of whole grain bread.
Oh, okay.
Nearly 6 grams of fibre, so that's a massive amount of fibre in such a small amount. Okay. And the other thing that's really standout-ish about chia is that it's very, very high in omega-3. In fact, it is the plant food that is the highest in omega-3 food content compared to all plant foods that exist. Okay. So in 1 tablespoon, again, you get your daily requirement for omega-3 that comes from plants called ALA. And this is an important message for people in particular who don't eat fish. So if you're vegetarian or vegan and might not eat fish, you should be having things like chia or linseed to help top up your omega-3 levels.
Now, look, for me, I just noticed everybody's eating chia. Maybe I better hop on the bandwagon. So I've been whacking it on my porridge. I don't even know why.
Are you feeling better for it?
Well, yeah, it's just fun to eat.
It
but
is.
Tell us, how do you use it? Because there's more ways than...
the other thing we probably should mention is, interestingly enough, despite it being used as a superfood for so long, there aren't many human clinical trials. But of the 4 that I was able to dig up, 3 of the 4 have shown tremendous benefits for diabetes. So it helps to lower your sugar.
Oh, I need that, yes. Okay.
Good for the waistline.
Oh, yes,
so
definitely.
Good for weight control.
Yep, okay.
And it even helps to regulate your blood fats. So there's lots of reasons why you should use it, not just because of its amazing nutrition attributes.
Okay. Tell us how, though.
Sure. So there's lots of ways. So
I had no idea about some of this.
So you can start with actual chia seeds, which are the ones at the front. You can buy them as white or black. You can also buy chia bran, which is the outer part of the seed. You can even get chia oil.
For the omega-3 benefit, I would imagine.
Yes, and the oil you can toss into salad dressings or use it in smoothies. Now, as for the seed, well, there are just so many ways. Let's have a look at a few.
Yes, yes, yes.
So now you add it to your cereal, and that's what most people do, just add a tablespoon. But did you know, James, you can actually use chia to replace egg white in your cooking.
That's amazing.
Let me show you how. So very, very easy. So you just get about a tablespoon or two. It depends how much egg white equivalent mixture you need, but let's take a tablespoon.
Yes.
Add it to a glass.
Yes.
And then let's add 5, 6, 7 tablespoons of water.
Oh, that's right, because it makes 27 times its volume, is it? Or,
yes, it absorbs water drastically.
Oh.
And let's mix that. Now you need to keep stirring because it will start to gel up. And the reason for its gelling, it's the viscous fibres.
Okay.
Now if you let that sit for 10-15 minutes, you get this. Look at this. You would not believe how gelatinous and sticky that is.
That's incredible.
And if you're making burgers, patties, rissoles, instead of adding egg white, you can just add some of this through it. It glues them together beautifully, and you get all that fibre, and you get the omega-3s. Now, interestingly enough, you can vary that texture. You can make chia porridge. People who are raw foodists, they actually have chia porridge for breakfast. You can turn it into dessert. You can buy these chia pods from supermarkets now. You can flavour it. I often use it as dessert with fruit. And something very, very traditional is just there for you, James.
Yes, as we're finishing, I just noticed this. What is this?
This is called chia fresca. And
chia drink.
Chia drink.
Fresh chia drink.
Fresh, yes. And traditionally it's made by dissolving the chia seeds just in plain water, adding some lemon juice, and usually they add a bit of sweetness. But I haven't sweetened that one for you. And you can see the seeds are in suspension.
Floating. Now, you told me that this is good for regularity?
Absolutely, because in the 600 mils that you can see there, which would fit a standard water bottle, we have added 2 tablespoons. So you're getting more than 10 grams of fibre just in your drink during the day. Have a taste. It's an unusual sensation at first. It's got that gelatinous feel, but once you have a few sips, you sort of realise that, yeah, I can drink this. And people actually really get hooked on it. They really do.
I'm really glad, Sue, you put lemon juice in this. It actually tastes beautiful because it's got a little bit of tart lemon, and the chia seed tastes a little bit like sago pudding. It's got a very desserty kind of flavour.
And a great way to get more chia into your day.
Well, I'm going to start drinking it. Hey, guys, just try chia drink, see what happens. I'll find out soon.
Planning your future can be a daunting task. What you want to do, who you want to be, and the road ahead can often be unpredictable. No one really knows what the future holds. Avondale. It's education designed for life.
Hi, welcome back. Well, it was a tragedy that transfixed the world for quite a while. Germanwings Flight 9525 that went down into a mountain, a deliberate act of the pilot by the look of it, 150 people killed. And today with me in the studio is John Menzies, who could have very easily been on that flight.
Yeah.
So, John, when you got home to the bosom of your family, what was the reaction from them?
Well, probably the reaction occurred long before I got back to the family because we were on business. It was a few weeks before we got back. But yes, it was something that could have turned out completely different, if not for the kind intervention of a stranger. And we were on business in Portugal and Spain, and having to make our way to a conference in Germany.
Okay, and obviously Dusseldorf was the eventual destination of that fated flight, and you were also headed there. Now, look, before we do get into that, John, I just wanted to go back, just take you back a little bit, because this has been a bit of a theme for your spiritual life, hasn't it? This sort of brush with death. You were telling me earlier that there was a time in your life where you fell victim to this trend of the outdoors, and golf perhaps is more interesting than church. What was going on there?
Well, I guess I was getting a bit lax in my spiritual life, and my family would go to church on the weekend, and I decided that I enjoyed playing golf more, and so that's what I was doing more regularly than going to church. And obviously God decided there was a strategic intervention that was required and gave me a really good flick in the ear when I was in India.
Which was what? What happened?
Oh, well, I was connecting on another business flight between Delhi and Hyderabad, and then on to Mumbai to fly on to Europe for some research work that I was doing. And we arrived in the domestic lounge, and I accidentally walked outside the terminal instead of catching the bus to the international.
This is in Mumbai,
This is in Mumbai, yeah,
Okay.
a domestic. And so a very helpful taxi driver called a taxi, and a taxi came in front of the rest of the queue and jumped in. He
Special
had a
treatment.
Yes, mobile phone in the hand, and he jumps into the taxi. Then off we go down the dark alley. And so he wanted thousands and thousands of rupees for a 200 rupee drive. And of course, I'm in travel between destinations. I didn't have the money. And so he was very explicit about what he was going to do to me. So he ended up taking all the money that I had, but not enough for what he wanted. And then another vehicle came in behind us with another 4 men, and I thought, I'm in big trouble. But it was a taxi swap. They moved my bags into the other taxi and then sent me off to the airport. But then the new taxi...
that was kind of them.
Yeah, but they took me down another dark alley.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that that was the end of it, but the taxi driver just got out and wandered out of the back of the taxi, and I thought this was it. They're really going to finish the job. And I started praying. And so that situation, when I got back home after that one, because it really knocked me around, it shook my confidence in my travelling by myself, which I'd done for a long time, never had an incident before, and I thought I was going to die. And I started praying, and I thought to myself, well, if golf's more important, why am I praying now? So I went to church for the first time that weekend with my family and got myself saved again.
Wow. So it was a real turning point for you.
Yes, it was.
Incredible. But you did manage, obviously, to keep travelling, because here you are again, just not that long ago, in Europe. So now that we have a little bit of perspective on that, how was it that you came so close to being on that flight, and how was it that you missed it?
Well, like I was saying before, we were in business in Portugal and Spain and having to make our way through to Dusseldorf. Of course, there was a conference in Cologne, and we'd finished our appointments and was connecting from Oporto in Portugal through to Dusseldorf and then onto Dusseldorf. And when we flew into Barcelona from Oporto, we were about an hour late, and so we weren't making the connection very well. And we told the ground staff, and they said if we got across to the other terminal, which is quite a distance away, we'd be okay. When we got there, they said, flight's closed, you can't get on. You're on the flight the next morning, which was the doomed flight.
Okay. So you were told at this point, I'm sorry, sir. Yes, you and your colleague were there. Yep. I'm sorry, sir. You're not going to be able to make this flight. You're going to have to wait for tomorrow and fly from Barcelona to Dusseldorf, which was that Germanwings flight 9525 that eventually went down. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm a bit persistent, and and I said, aren't we all rechecked in? Because that was the person who actually made a difference. We were in Oporto, we couldn't check in online. Often they overbook these flights, and if you get there and you're not checked in, and if you're late particularly, you're not going to get on your flight. And a young lady actually went and opened up the Lufthansa office again, and by personal phone got us booked onto that flight. And if she hadn't gone out of her way to do that, then we would not have got onto that flight. We would have been put onto the one the next morning.
Wow. The
interesting thing is that this young lady then reached out by Facebook. I saw Anna was the name, and we'd met with an Anna
after the crash.
Yeah, but this is before we knew there was a crash. We didn't even know there had been a crash, and Anna sent a friend message, and so I thought it was another Anna that was at a research institute that we just visited, and I accepted it. And then this message came through from Anna saying, "John, are you there?" And so from then we've actually been in contact with Anna, and she tells me the reason we connected so well was that being a food scientist, and she loves Australian MasterChef, she put the two together. We had a good old chat about food.
Boy, if you had been on that ill-fated flight that did go down into the mountain, reflecting on that, how did that feel for you? Like in terms of, it would have been a pretty awful feeling, I imagine.
Yeah, well, it was that evening. my colleague I was travelling with, and I was sitting down for dinner, and his wife had just made contact with him, wondering whether he'd been on that flight. So that was pretty traumatic for his family.
Because they knew you were going to Dusseldorf.
Yeah, and they knew we were on a German wing flight, and they knew the itinerary, and it was pretty close. Because even Anna, the person from Lufthansa, thought we'd been on the flight until she could confirm that we were alive. She'd been in tears all morning. So when we were sitting down for dinner, Ben, the guy I was travelling with, said, "Do you realise that was pretty close, John?" And then we stopped and reflected, and it was sort of like stops you in your track, like what may have been. But for some reason, or not for some reason, I know the reason, there was a calmness that I had that we didn't get into that situation for some reason that God obviously had. But even if I had have ended up being on that flight, then I was still comfortable that my salvation was secure.
Wow. Now, your mate, Ben, who doesn't have a particular faith at this stage, he wanted to go into a cathedral and burn a candle. Is that right?
Yeah, the next day we went and visited the Cologne Cathedral, and we got there late and they were closing it down. So we just got ourselves through in time, and of course it's a beautiful cathedral, and the feeling of reverence and awe is just all over that building.
But not part of your faith tradition particularly.
No.
And as you've told me, he's not particularly religious at all. So, but nevertheless, there you are.
Yeah, and so can we burn a candle? So we did, and I felt really good.
Wow, incredible. I guess one thing that troubles me a little bit about this, John, is to think, wow, it almost appears, that God stepped in and there's some divine intervention in you not being on that plane. It so very easily could have happened. But then I think of the 150 people who did perish on, German wings 9525. Can you make any sense of, why you and not them?
It's something you can never make sense of, and it's something that makes you feel very sad. And because you have all these intense feelings yourself after a situation like that, you know that all of those families must have gone through that in bucket loads because they actually lost their loved ones. There's many things that happen in this world that there's no reason for, and a lot of people like to say it's God's fault. But what people forget, there's a devil out there too doing his work.
True.
And we don't know why some people are saved and some people aren't. Some people die, some people live. But that's what God knows, because he knows the beginning from the end. And so maybe there's something that Ben and I still have to do in this life that God has planned for us.
Well, it's confronting stuff, but thanks so much for being here, John, to share your story. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back in just a second.
Signs of the Times, a magazine for a world on the brink. And this month in Signs, God's 10 Commandments, the only lasting solution to the world's chaos. How you can improve your health day after day after day. What would society be like if Christianity didn't exist? Discovering what happens in the time immediately following Christ's return. All in this month's Signs of the Times. Subscribe to Signs today and change your life.
Hello, well, that's it from us this week.
Don't forget to stay in touch, and remember that all our videos are available at our website, record.net.au.
Check it out. We'll see you next time on Record in Focus.
God bless.